I'm not going to mince any words. Inflation is a bitch. Prices are crazy, and they've been crazy for years now. You know what the worst thing about this is that once prices go up like this, they don't come back down. That's not what happens, right? They shoot up and they stay up there, right? The only thing that really happens is that they stop going up as fast. They're just going to go like this. Instead of just skyrocketing up in a straight line like it's been for the last couple of years, if we're lucky, it's going to go like that and then start to kind of go up normally 3% a year, excluding essential items. And so with all that said, I don't think I've ever seen a better time to start building your studio. Let's dig into it after the open. Hi, I'm Davey from MK Dub. I have a theory. You know, I have a pretty decent salary. We don't have a ton of debt other than a mortgage. And I'm kind of pausing on like buying lunch with my colleagues. Folks who are in the gig economy or who are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know how they're dealing with this. It blows my mind. And so my theory is that the costs of living, the essentials, food, shelter, utilities, insurance, right? The cost of just the essential items have skyrocketed so much that people, even people who are on good salaries like myself, are having to pause and think about what they spend money on. And because of that, things that are discretionary, things like gear and studio stuff, people are cutting back on those items. And even the cost of those things, right? Like I remember Dave Smith instruments, they weren't even called sequential again yet, right? So it was just Dave Smith instruments, and the Prophet Rev 2 came out, and the 16 voice Prophet Rev 2 with the keyboard was $2,000. And if you look it up today, that same exact product, even with a bigger corporation now helping them, is now $3,000, right? So that's like a 50% increase in price. And unless you're a billionaire, our income and our wages and our earnings and our money has not kept up with that rate of inflation. And so I think people are just having to make tough choices about where they spend this money that, is shrinking, right? That's what inflation does to your money. It shrinks your spending power. So even if your paycheck goes up, but if the cost of everything else goes up faster than your paycheck, you can actually buy less stuff. And that's what we're all feeling now. With all that, why am I saying that now is a great time to buy gear and to build your rig? It's a 4-letter word, buy used. Buying used is kind of aligns with my personal philosophy, right? In a society where we're just bombarded with this temptation to like overconsume, wantedly mindless consumption, fast fashion and fast consumerism. I find that buying used gear and just having this philosophy of recycling and reusing and repurposing helps us just to counterweight that a little bit. Not enough, but just a little bit. Now, I've always generally bought used gear, and I've always tried to balance it with supporting companies like Moog and Sequential over, let's say, Behringer, even though that motivation has kind of decreased a little bit since those two got bought out by conglomerates. But, companies like Chase Bliss or Pittsburgh Modular, another example, these people who are actually just as part of the community as well as being companies, right? So always want to support those. So I've always advocated kind of a balanced approach. The main reason why I'm advocating folks to go use right now is that the market for used gear has kind of cratered a little bit. Prices have cratered. Over the weekend, I picked this puppy up for $600, right? That's the lowest price I've ever seen on it. And not only that, but he threw in the actual branded bag with it, right? So $600 for the synth and this bag here, which probably costs $150 or something. It just reminded me just how crazy prices have gotten. The prices for used gear have gotten, right? I mean, not just this. I mean, if I go out onto Craigslist, I can find Moog Matriarchs for $1,500, $1,400, Novation Peaks for $800, Analog 4 Mark IIs for $800. The prices have really dropped. The bottom has really dropped out of a lot of these gears. I mean, I'm sure there's some collectibles that still sell for pretty good money, but for the most part, a lot of the Chase Bliss pedals that used to sell for above their MSRP have come down quite a bit, and you can buy them for quite a bit less. So right now, it's definitely a buyer's market for used gear. If you've been thinking about filling out some gaps in your studio, now's as good a time as any in the last 10 years to pull that trigger.